Recovery-oriented cognitive therapy, which is an empirically supported treatment for people diagnosed with serious mental illness that operationalizes recovery and resiliency in a person-centered, strength-based way. Dr. Grant is on the faculty at the Beck Psychopathology Research Center at the University of Pennsylvania, and Dr. Inverso is also at the same center. She's the Director of Clinical Training and Education at the Beck Recovery Training Network. So the two of them are really presenting something very innovative, very unique, that is really relevant to the needs of NAMI members. Many NAMI members who have been dealing with serious mental illness, both themselves or in their families, for a long time, and what they offer is very innovative, fresh solution. So we're really honored to have them here. Please welcome them.
We're very happy to be here. We're very pleased to have been invited to talk to people in New Jersey. We live our lives over in Pennsylvania, but we think things get a lot more exciting when you come over to New Jersey. All morning we've really been enjoying the energy and enthusiasm here. I might just start by saying that one of our collaborators, main collaborators, is Dr. Aaron Beck, and he sends his regards. He could not be here today. He's 96 and not terribly mobile, but wonderfully alive. So anything that we say here are things that he's very versed in. Am I okay? It seems like I'm reverbing now. Soon I'm going to auto-tune for you. So here's some take-home points that just hopefully, if you don't remember anything else that we say today, if some of these points might resonate with you. We're going to try to illustrate the way in which recovery really extends to absolutely everybody. There is nobody who has too severe a condition or has problems that are too severe that they can't recover, and we hope to illustrate this for you. They're very concrete and straightforward, effective things that anyone can do to be helping a person flourish into their, sort of go into their own recovery and really flourish in life. It's really a collaborative atmosphere. A key thing I think you're going to see here is, unlike the program this morning a little bit, you're going to see that this may not look to you like the treatment that you're used to, but one of the things we've really learned over the years is that the less treatment looks like treatment, and the more treatment looks like life, the better it is for everybody. So we're going to try to show that to you. And the framework that we're presenting, since everybody can do it, and we've been able to implement it, and I'll tell you about this, in several places across the continuity of care. It actually promotes continuity of care in a really pragmatic way, and I'll try to illustrate that for you. But I'm going to start with just a little bit of the evidence base, because this is an evidence-based practice. And one thing that sometimes we hear a lot about is that, well, there's evidence-based practice, there's recovery, there's treatment, and there's like all these different things. I want to try to illustrate to you that they're completely together, and there's really no difference between them, and you can completely achieve recovery, resiliency, life, flourishing, everything through an evidence-based practice. It's not an evidence-based practice, it's something you sprinkle on, you sprinkle recovery, that kind of thing. So here's something I want you to think about, and that I think about a lot. There's pretty good evidence that one of the basic needs that we all have is for connection, really connection with other people. This just happens to be a paper, I think, that pulled all of that stuff together. But one of the things I think that we see as we start to work in this particular area is that there's a lot of people who have a diagnosis of serious mental illness who don't have this. They actually, one of the things they're really lacking in their life is really the meaningful relationships. A lot of times the ones they wanted, they may not have been able to get. And some of the ways we see this is if you go, sometimes when you go into some of the treatment facilities, everyone's sitting there together, but they're not interacting with each other that much. Or you sit down with somebody and they say, hey doc, I'm 52 years old, where's my wife? Where's my house? Where's my job? These kinds of things. So we think that connection is going to be something that's really huge in terms of any kind of treatment that we want to be focusing on. This unfortunate slide, which I shouldn't have designed, is just trying to illustrate a sort of theoretical framework that we're utilizing that we grabbed from our boss invented this framework. But I think it's really important, and it links up to what we're talking about here. For a lot of individuals who get this diagnosis, they see themselves as weak, vulnerable, ineffective, and worthless. And oftentimes when you're talking with them, they will say these things. Similarly, they see other people as controlling, dangerous, and rejecting. But rejection looms huge for a lot of people. And then the future is uncertain and foreboding. These sorts of things are things that are, I think, behind all of the myriad things that you might see. But these are things that we can help, because in fact, this isn't right, and you have a bright future, and you're really much more capable than you realize. And other people, while they might be a pain in the ass, are often fabulous and wonderful to work with.
I won't take that personally.
Not yet. Okay. I want to just talk about a little basic research. Here's the reason I like to focus on research just a little bit. I think we have some really good stuff here, and other people develop really good stuff. But sometimes somebody's going to say, "But does it work? Can you really show that it works?" And so it's sometimes nice to be able to say, "Yeah, we can show that it works," and that's helpful. It's not just that we think we have good ideas. We do have good ideas, of course, and you do too. But we also show that they work, and that's sometimes helpful to us. Oops, I turned it off. All right. So one of the things that we discovered, we actually got into this work by interviewing providers, family members, as well as affected individuals. And one of the things that came up over and over again, and this was maybe like 15 years ago, was there was a real worry about, in particular, negative symptoms. So the lack of energy, the lack of socializing, the sort of not speaking, that kind of thing. A lot of people said, well, maybe we've got stuff we can do with hallucinations and delusions, but this one's really kind of a lot harder for us. And so we interviewed a lot of people, and it seemed to be that a lot of times the people who were doing less in their lives, really not getting the life they wanted, often had these beliefs that they couldn't do things. So why try? I'm just going to fail, these kinds of things. And we figured they developed these because they were trying to protect themselves. So over about the last 15 years, and all kinds of research on this thing, we call these kinds of beliefs defeatist beliefs. And this is just showing you the kind of thing that you can get in one of these studies, which is that basically the defeatist beliefs, if somebody has those, they're likely to have more elevated negative symptoms. In a way of thinking of that is they have lower motivation. They're likely to not put out a lot of effort, and then really not do a lot in their life, and then if you throw these tests in front of them, they don't do all that well on the tests. So these things all go together. The nice thing about this is the beliefs are true, and so you can help the person revise their beliefs through their experience, which is what our therapy is about. This is kind of a cool finding that shows that that the beliefs are actually related to people not being able to sustain their work. So if you help the person have less defeatist beliefs, they actually do better at work, and they enjoy their social life more. This is a big thing, and I think this is one of the bigger things I've discovered. The sense of social exclusion and not belonging makes it more likely that someone is going to think they can't do things, and more likely that they won't. So just hold on to the concept of social exclusion, which I think is a really powerful thing, because we can correct that. And this is something that I've kind of gotten excited about. I've come to really see that the way that people really get better and start to flourish and really have the life that they want is the development of the positive beliefs they have about themselves and the positive beliefs they have about other people. It's not so much getting rid of those negative ones that we talked about, it's more that I'm capable. Or even make it more emotional than that. I can kick ass at this, that kind of thing. So developing these positive beliefs really is the key. So we've been focusing a lot on helping people do that through their experience. So I just wanted to emphasize that. So recovery-oriented cognitive therapy. My slides are missing. Okay, there's a slide that's missing from here. Okay. It's like we're all going to have a massive hallucination together, but it's going to be good. I'm going to like it. Okay? All right, so there's supposed to be an arrow here, which is going to describe to you how our therapy works. I'm going to do my best to do it, and then Dr. Inverso here is going to do a much better job of really bringing it to life for you. But here's the way it works. For a lot of people, especially if they've had sort of years of disability, or years of just being, they're often really pulled back. They don't trust other people all that much. They're not used to doing a lot, and so you need to meet them where they're at. You've got to figure out how to connect with them. So the beginning of our approach is to help providers and therapists and family members really find the sort of very special aspects of the person that helps bring them out. There's always stuff that's like that. Ellen will describe that to you. So what we're thinking of is that there's what we call the adaptive mode. And we'll try to illustrate that to you. There's times when all of a sudden somebody who seems so withdrawn, so not in with you, all of a sudden is amazing. And that's what we call the adaptive mode. So what we want to figure out is to help, how do we access that? And then how do we help develop it? And the way we're going to do it is through the relationship we have. That's a recovery principle, connection. So connection, you can achieve connection by accessing this adaptive mode and energizing it. But That's not enough, because there's lots of nice recreational things that people with serious mental illness might do that doesn't really help them get the life they want. That's where we have to think about the future and really develop aspirations. And what we're talking about in terms of aspirations is not getting out of the hospital so much, that's nice. It might not be so much taking your meds. It might not be going to anger management group. No, we're talking about something much bigger than that. Getting that girlfriend, having a job, really making a difference in some way, and more important than anything, helping people. Once you crack open this idea that there's something that you can really do, that's hope. Hope is so critical, and hope is also one of the main recovery dimensions. But we're not people who are interested, well, we're Aaron Beck's students, so we're not interested in talking about things, we're interested in doing things. So this approach is an active thing. It's not so much convincing yourself something, it's just doing stuff. So there's a whole component of it where we're actualizing this adaptive mode the person has through doing stuff that has the meaning of whatever the aspirations might be. And we'll illustrate that. Like I said, Dr. Universo will knock that out of the park for you. But then the whole idea of the treatment is, as you find that you can do things with other people, as you can find that you can help other people, that's the point at which you realize that the beliefs you were holding aren't true. That rather than being a hurting person, you're a helping person. Rather than being somebody who can't make a difference, you can make a huge difference. And that change then propels you forward into this much more adaptive space. And we can sort of illustrate that for you in a bunch of the different folks that we work with.
So what Paul was saying, the first, unless I get too much feedback, in which case I'll have to say so. What Paul was saying, the first step in recovery-oriented cognitive therapy is how do we access the kind of the person and the personality that's underneath the distress or the lack of energy or not feeling so motivated. And so when we are working with providers or family members or individuals to think about how do we access it, one of the questions I really like to think about is, what is someone like at their best? What are we as people like at our best? So, ignoring what's on the side of me, I want to ask you guys, and hopefully many of us are done eating at this point, what do you like at your best? What do you enjoy? What makes you happy? Just shout them out at me. Singing. What else makes you happy? Dancing. Me too. Friends. What else? Music.
Hiking.
What? Shopping. Yeah. I've got a lot of friends in this room. What else? Outdoors. Exercise. Reading. So one of the questions I like to ask a lot is like, who likes to cook? That's fantastic. Who likes to eat? Yeah. Awesome. We're gonna, like I said, we've got a good relationship forming already. It's perfect. So, but when you're thinking the people who like to cook, what's one of the best parts of doing that? What's good about it? Creating things like here.
Inventing.
Sharing. Nourishing others. Exactly. So I like that example because I don't do it. My husband cooks. But I teach me, help me, because it's a great give and take relationship. But anyway, the things that we're all sharing that we like to do that make us happy and make us feel like we're at our best are not things that we like because we are all people who are interested in being at a NAMI conference. They're things we like because we're people, right? They make us feel good. They help us feel really connected to other people. So when we're talking with the folks who we are working with in whatever capacity that might be, we always want to think about when are people at their best, and it's when they're doing and talking about all these things that we all just talked about, right? It's when we're talking about the family party. It's when our favorite team is on. It's when we're watching the game with our friends. It's when we are performing or our favorite song comes on, right? That's us, and that's our energy access, right? And so what we want to try and think about is, especially when it gets so easy, I guess, to get caught up in some of one that's really stressful, right? And so always thinking about what is someone like at their best? What's the exception to the rule? This, they're really isolating, keeping away from other people. Well, except for when, right? And so these are the things we see. And what do we look like when we're doing the things that we all enjoy? That's our access to our energy, right? All those negative symptoms Paul was saying that can feel so isolating, and can keep us disconnected from others, and can keep us from really moving forward, are really countered by the things that we find really meaningful and fun, or that we just enjoy doing or sharing. So it gives us energy. We're able to really talk to other people. It opens our kind of ability to think about other things and to think about the things that we might want to do again, right?
Oftentimes we think of it as cycling between a sort of an adaptive mode that you're trying to help the person access and make more or less the dominant mode in their life, and more of this, for lack of a better word, put in quotes, like a patient mode. And so that's a mode that's either dominated by symptoms, or it's dominated by trying to really do everything appropriately. I felt that way earlier, don't worry about it. I was really struggling. So a lot of what Ellen is talking about is really how you sort of access that. You can access it with everybody, and then sort of developing that. And so essentially the start of treatment looks nothing like treatment, because it's the way to get started. And for a lot of people, you have to start here, because they don't want treatment, and quite honestly, I don't blame them. They want to get back to life. They want. There's actually somebody who drew this out for us on a piece of paper, where they showed, when I go to see my therapist or when I see my psychiatrist, they drew a circle, right big in the middle was my diagnosis and medications. They said, that's not very appealing. I want to talk about getting a partner, I want to talk about a job, I want to go back to school. So whatever the focus has got to be, it's got to be on those things. Those are the things that have to really be the focus, and that's why we start here.
Yeah. And even in this space, I forgot we have to switch back and forth. When you are, let's say, making a meal and sharing it with somebody, or you're dancing or singing, exercising, there's a lot of things that you can take away if given the opportunity about your own abilities, right? Because what does it say about me that I'm able to make this and share it with you? I'm capable, I'm connected, I have things to offer. So again, even from the beginning, even though as Paul was saying, sometimes the best therapy doesn't always look like therapy, there's so much powerful learning that we can take about ourselves and other people as we're doing it. So a number of the ways that we can help to access the adaptive mode is talk with each other, thinking about finding these shared interests. So a bunch of us just have a lot of things in common. That gives us something really cool that we can connect on and talk about. Even if we like different teams, we can still have a conversation about sports, and that's really cool to share our interests. But I think one of the most powerful things that we can do for the people that we care so much about, or the people that we are treating, is level that playing field. I am not an expert in all things, and there's so much that I can be taught at any given time. I think one of the most powerful experiences is being able to help someone else, and there's no provider who's an exception to that. So for example, I love learning about recipes that maybe what if I did want to try something one night? I don't know. At least I have that chance. It's a way to connect with people who we've come from a different area. Where we are in Philadelphia, I'm every day interacting with amazing people and meeting people who have been in, for example, state hospitals longer than I've been alive. And there is so much that I don't know that we've been able to connect on, like teaching me about the Philly sound from the 60s, right? Those are things that we can connect on that can help the person feel really energized, because how dare I not know about these groups, right? And so I think that's one of the best ways as far as how to access it is really look for.
Just to give you an illustration, we can think of people who don't want to get up in the morning, something like that, and someone knocks on the door and says, hey, we don't know how to make the waffles down here. We understand you're really good at that. Would you be able to help us a little bit? And the person pops right up and is downstairs. Having a role where you can help other people, I think, is really, you can't underestimate how powerful and fabulous that can be for the person.
So once we've found that thing that is really worth kind of putting your feet on the floor for in the morning, something that gives you some energy that you really enjoy doing, one of the things that we want to be able to do is help people see that it's worth doing these things more often, and start drawing some conclusions just about that part of things. So we're establishing connection by not just learning about what they're interested in, but by doing them together. do it together, and that's why I think that helping and getting advice is so important, because we're in a relationship that way, and it really helps to move things along faster. We've got trust, and it establishes a really more balanced role between us. And then we want to think about if this is something that makes you feel good, feel like yourself, and we like doing it together, is it something we should be doing more often? And hey, are there other things that we might want to start doing that they may now have the kind of energy to be thinking about now that they're in that more adaptive mode?
So, as I was saying at the start, just getting into this mode and doing some fun things and nice things with other people is good. But at the end of the day, we as people want more than that. We want a little more than just having fun with other people. We want to do something in the world that's going to make a difference. And so we refer to this aspect of things as aspirations. And we do this for a particular reason. We found that the word goals is so prevalent in mental health treatment that it's lost some of its meaning sometimes. And so you can kind of say to some of the individuals who say, so what are your goals? And sometimes what they'll say to you is, well, do you want to know what I really care about, or do you want to know what my treatment team wants me to say? So you know that, you're familiar with that. So what we want to do, sometimes language is just really important. We want to crack out of that, because we want to really talk about what they really care about. We want to get to that. And something like an aspiration, something that you really, really wanted to do. If you think back maybe when you were younger, or if you're still young, I don't mean to insult you, just sort of what kinds of things you were thinking about, and what it felt like to think about, whatever it was. If you wanted to be a nurse, or if you wanted to be a doctor, if you wanted to have a family, any of those things, if you can sort of touch what that feels like, it's the same thing here. And so that's really what we want to be getting to, is something that really is really got that power, because I think a lot of times the challenge that the people that we're collaborating with are having is accessing motivation so they can really start to get some of the stuff they want, having this feeling of efficacy. And what we have found is if you get some really good targets like this, and then you know that what you're doing is linked to that, it makes a lot of things easier. And some of the challenges that sometimes come up in the treatment can sort of wash away, because you don't really have to fight so much about this, that, or the other thing. You could say, well, let's see, is this getting you closer to or further from the house that you really wanted, that kind of thing. So, and also for people who have sort of legal involvement, some of the legal stuff, and even some of the physical things can be put into the context of trying to help you get what you want, which is the girlfriend, the house, but ultimately really helping other people. But it's not enough to just sort of identify what this thing is. We don't kind of just check it off and then we run on, because it needs to really be developed. And Helen's particularly good at illustrating what that means, but we really want to make it really rich for the person so that it can compete with whatever challenges they might be running into, because they run into pretty significant challenges sometimes in the form of voices, in terms of stress, in terms of sometimes getting really paranoid, those kinds of things. So you need something powerful to be able to help you be able to sort of focus away from that. So that's why it's important to really enrich these things. And then at the end of the day, like I said, the meaning is so critical. Because it might be true that I might want to be a space astronaut, and that would be a long, long way from where I am now. But if the meaning of that is that you're really being an inspiration to other people, I might be able to do something every single day that's that. And so I'm hitting the meaning. So in a way, when people talk about values, this is a way that you can turn what values are into something you're actually doing and experiencing.
So I want to elaborate a little bit on how we kind of enrich these aspirations, because like Paul said, it's really not just about finding out what does someone want or what do they always want. It's really imagining what might that look like. Paint me a picture. You want to get your own place. Who wants their own place? You know, I mean, any of us will want our own place, or the people we work with want their own place, or your family member. But that's awesome. What would it look like? What would it be like? Take me through what the day might be. Would you have people over? What would you want to have in the house? I want a really rich, meaningful picture using whatever, if it's imagery, if it's us talking, if it's us looking at pictures, if that's where we go. I want to be able to see what, in my mind, what that's going to look like, because that's the image that's going to stick with us. The own place is great, but having your own place where you've got the room set up so your nieces and nephews can come play, and they've got like the Xbox in there, and how cool that's going to be, that's something that's going to really mean something. And when we're looking for that motivation, it hits at something really a little bit deeper. I want to tell you about an amazing young woman that I've been spending a lot of time with, who has really struggled for most of her childhood, adolescence, into her early adulthood. And she was really getting caught up and focusing a lot of time on thinking about the things that stress her out. We all kind of do that, right? But to the point where it wasn't really helping her kind of move toward the things that she wanted. So we really spent a lot of time focusing on, so when all this is said and done, she's in a treatment facility, when all this is said and done, what do you want to be doing? What do you want to be getting? What's that going to look like? She said she wanted to be a nurse, and she wanted to get married one day. That's awesome. Tell me about it. Asking her to kind of paint me a picture, and what she described was that, with this relationship, for example, she wanted to have somebody who, when they're going to get married, and they'll go for a walk along the water, and they're going to get ice cream and a cup of coffee, and they'll be walking along the water holding hands. You can see that, right? You can picture it. And as she was talking about it, you could see her entire energy, her just being more relaxed. She's smiling. She's able to really generate that emotion that what she imagines that she would feel in that moment. And that's where a lot of the motivation is, pulled from, is from that place, and it's really cool. And then it's about asking, so what would that mean about you to get that? And finding out what the meaning of these aspirations is going to be. When it came to being a nurse, it would mean that she'd be able to give hope to other kids who have been through the experiences she's had, and that would mean that she is a really good person and someone who can really help other people. And that's important, and that's meaningful.
And of course, we got to do it.
Yeah. So, like I said, this is recovery-oriented cognitive therapy is not what we would describe as a talking therapy. This is a doing therapy. This is an action therapy. Because what we want to do is we want to find practical ways that we can every day start achieving the meaning of our aspirations, or maybe start just even in doing the things that are going to get us the access to energy, so I can learn that I can create my own energy, so that I can start maybe thinking about what I want, whatever step a person is at. But it's really about doing things together. It's about doing things as much as possible in the context that you actually want. Going to church, going to the Y, taking classes. We have a wonderful person we work with who is going to be learning how to put bikes together. This is a bike class down the road from her residence, where she's at right now. In a treatment milieu, so in a residence or on a unit, a lot of times it's about finding what are things that I can do to be part of my community right here to start. What role do I hold that's going to meet the different meaning that I'm looking for? Maybe I am the person who gets everyone up for when it's time to go down to meals. Maybe I'm the person who picks the music that we're going to listen to during the walking club in the morning. But it's really identifying the things that we can do together to start putting these things into action. Everything is in the context of what they want in the future, how it's going to get them closer to walking along the water and holding hands and getting coffee and ice cream with their partner. And then this is a really important piece, and this is the cognitive therapy piece, I guess, of the whole thing, which is, what is it that we learn about ourselves, and how do we see ourselves, other people, and the potential for the future differently. So as we're doing these different things together, it's about whether it's a therapist or a parent or a friend or a sibling, anyone can draw a person's attention to the times when they are being successful. And it's more than saying, hey, you did a great job. It's saying, hey, wow, like, I feel so much better now that we just played that game together. Man, what does that say that you were able to help me feel better? Well, it means that I'm, a really great brother. Whatever that might be, it's about drawing attention to the times when people are connected, when they have a sense of control. Because I think in addition to connection, that's one of the pieces that, especially if we're looking at the different treatment places that we have been in, doesn't always feel like you have a lot of control. There's a lot of people telling you about the things you need to do and not a lot of opportunity for choice. So anytime that we have the opportunity to do that and draw their attention to the fact that, hey, you did that. How cool is that? That's really important. So things that draw attention to control, connection, to capability, and to the ability to have energy.
Yeah, this is really the way that it moves forward and the person's life space grows. as they start to get more into their flourishing and really getting the things that they want. This is kind of key. The other aspect of this is we have a way of thinking about resiliency. And the way we think of resiliency is really it's about empowerment with regard to stressors and things of that sort, and recognizing that you can handle things and focus back on the life that you want to be having. Like I said, if I can definitely really get upset at her. I don't like the way she's doing that. Someone needs to teach her something, but I realize that if I hit her right now, that's probably going to get me further away from my own place and that kind of thing. So maybe I do something else, and at the end of the day, maybe the strongest person is the person that's able to really control their own reactions. So all kinds of things you do in here, and this is the way that maybe what looks more like traditional treatment fits in. But really, the idea is really to focus on being able to focus on the life you want and be able to handle, because everybody in this room handles stress. Everybody in this room has things that don't go your way, and so that's kind of part of living. It's kind of the beauty about living, and so that's really what this part of the treatment is about. So at the end of the day, what we're looking to do is to help the person kind of shrink what we're calling the patient mode, but it's just a mode. I mean, it's not that people are doing poorly. It's just they want so much more, and helping them get that more, and really be connected with other people, and make a difference in a sort of powerful way. This is how we see the thing works going forward. And this is what we've seen over the course of time. And we've worked at pretty much all levels of severity. We've worked in state hospitals where people are very institutionalized, and we've been able to help them sort of start to access their motivation, start to think about what they really want, get out of the hospital and back to the life that they actually want. So basically going from sitting by themselves all day to in the community, going to church, reconnecting with their family, and dating. So just beautiful stuff. And so we think the progression is initially accessing this side of the person, which sometimes comes out, then helping them really have this mastery experience with regard to what they really want to be doing. And really the key to everything is really participating with others in whatever way makes a difference to you. That's one of the cool things. That's what makes this a person-centered approach, because no 2-3 people have exactly the same interests. But that's cool, because then you're like a team. Then you're like a bunch of people doing a bunch of different things, as Ellen was saying. And we'll illustrate that to you in a couple of examples we have from the community. Ooh. Someone pointed out to me this is a very negative diagram because it focuses on the most restrictive level of care at the top of it and goes down to the least restrictive at the bottom of it. I promise you that if you see me present in the future, I'll try to change that. But for now, this is sort of what we have. We've been doing work in several states, including Pennsylvania, close by. We'll be working in New York soon, where we're working on this type of thing. So one of the issues is people who can't get out of the hospital, people who keep going back into the hospital, and people who don't want to come out of the hospital. So like 3 things. So that's why we focus on the state hospitals, sort of helping people get their life started there because they're stuck somehow. But then one of the things that a lot of people told us early on is, well, it's really fabulous and awesome that you get this great treatment going on in the hospital, but then what happens? What happens next? You could get it all started and really going the right direction, and then it's like throwing a Hail Mary pass, and you want to be able to hand it off. So what we realized is that we could start working with the teams that work in the community, the ACT teams and things like that. They could utilize the same model. They could actually begin some of the work in the hospital and help transition out of the hospital. And then usually the first step out of this hospital is not independent living typically, but it's more of sort of an in-between place that might or might not be locked. And so you can introduce the same kind of program there, and we'll illustrate some of that for you. But basically, someone can basically step down into their own life, and as some people on our team say, maybe some people can step out of care totally, right? So we want to kind of crack that open. So, because we don't know what people are capable of, that's when some of the cool stuff here. Like a gentleman that we knew who was in his 70s, been in a state hospital for 35 years. It was hard for him to get out because he lit some fires when he was younger. He teaches people how to moonwalk. If you remember Michael Jackson, he teaches people how to moonwalk. Who knew he knew that? And isn't it fabulous? That's why there's just amazing things inside of everybody, and that's the whole key to this, to the training model we've been utilizing, is to try to help people access that if you don't already know it. This is just a quote from the Chief Medical Officer in Philadelphia. Basically, will be how we're really helping Philadelphia create a continuity of care by utilizing some of the principles that I've been talking about here. He says that we work miracles, although I think miracles are less good. We want to be a little more dependable than miracles. But anyways, we think some pretty cool stuff is happening. Okay, and so we're just sort of illustrating, there's a bunch of places where this can fit in. We work a lot, I'm sure this is true in New Jersey as well, there's a lot of people, unfortunately, with serious mental illness who get forensically involved, really, sometimes, and in many instances, particularly undeserved, or whatever the case of it, they usually end up spending a lot more time in the forensic system. Many cases, they lose decades of their lives, so we're trying to change that with a jail diversion program in Philadelphia, as well as getting people out of the facilities more quickly, and then introducing some of these same supports. This slide, I wish, had a bigger picture of the garden, because I want to illustrate what I'm talking about. I think continuity of care literally can be something like a garden, and it's like this. This is a program that was developed in Philadelphia. They got rid of their state hospital, but not really. So they had some longer-term units that fulfill the same need. And this was an individual who got in and out and really had a lot of trouble with self-injury. But what really was the key for him was gardening. Very, very good at it. But more importantly, he taught other people, including the staff, very importantly the staff, and other individuals, how to garden. He did wonderfully. He came into the unit on a 3-on-1. That just never happened. That's how much trouble people were having with him. He went out like a model citizen in the sense that he beat him and say, do you own this hospital? You really have it together. So, but the thing is, when he went to the community, this is a picture of his garden in the community. When he went to the next stop along the way, he could do the same thing. He could help set up a garden. He could train people how to do the garden. And then there are a few things to do in the community that have nothing to do with mental health that involve gardening. So it begins to lead to the participation that we're talking about.
So I want to talk just a little bit about what this looks like. Gardening is one great example. People don't always want to go to group, right? Yeah. We get grouped out. And
that's right, they're going to stone us on the way out here.
I mean, group's great if you really are, feel motivated and wanting to do that. But if we're looking for something that's going to, again, be worth kind of putting your feet on the floor for, and it feels like it's something that's going to be connected to something bigger for you, groups sometimes tricky. That's why words matter. But you want to be a part of a club. Because what's good about a club? A club is like something that you join because you know there's going to be other people who are in the club, who are into the same things that you are. When you're part of a club, you belong. It's one of those. So we're going back to, again, those key pieces, the things that people are looking for, but maybe don't always have. And so when we are working in the different residential programs, one of the things we help them to do is connect with the individuals, find out the things that are important to them, and work together with individuals to create these clubs. And then find ways to connect that to the things that they can do in the community. And then as part of the treatment team, it's about changing the language and changing the dynamic. I don't know if you folks have been part of treatment teams, you've been in, as a consumer or as a family member or just as a member of the treatment team. It can feel a little intimidating. You come into the room, there's a lot of people around you, and they want to talk about how things are going and do a lot of checking in on maybe some very uncomfortable and sensitive things, right? It's not always the best experience for a lot of folks. But when the treatment team, and you're come into people who you've been partnering with to do all these things as part of your treatment community, and you come into the space, and people are asking you, checking in on your aspirations. Are we still working toward that house with the room with the Xbox? Awesome. What are some of the things that we've been doing together to help you get a little bit closer to that? It changes the conversation. And then we do talk about the things that might be getting in the way, but it's not until it's really getting in the way of, it's something that's getting in the way of maybe what they want. How is this helping out? And is there something we can do together to figure it out?
This is one of the ways in which the approach sort of meets the main observation in recovery, which is that you don't necessarily have to have an absence of things the psychiatrists would call symptoms to be able to have the life you want. So you can have the life you want, because we all have things that I think bother us. We have interesting ideas, we have anxiety, we might get depressed, but we deal with that stuff, and that's what we help individuals to. It's not about getting the symptoms gone, it's really about getting a life. It's a really good illustration of that.
So this is an example of something that was done on a long-term extended acute unit. It's called length of stay, maybe 6 months, a year, 2 years, sometimes a little bit more than that. But there are a group of individuals who they really want to do something, some type of community service. So they're talking about the things that they wanted to do. I think they found out that a lot of people were really interested in helping animals. Some people were. There's a group of people who were interested in helping animals. So they're trying to figure out, how do we do this here on the locked unit? And how do we start to involve all the different people all the other individuals on the unit who may or may not be interested in animals, but want to do something bigger and get them in the helping role. So they did a can drive. And as part of the can drive, there were several different roles. Someone had to make the signs, right? So I may not be into animals, but I may be really into creating art and sharing my art with other people and using it to help this group. There are people who looked online with the staff to find, they looked at the SPCA website. You can actually see pictures of the animals you'd be helping, and we're able to, advertise or talk about, we're going to be helping this particular animal, and these are someone to list out what are all the things they need. So there were a variety of different roles, and it was collaborative between the staff and all the individuals. And thinking about continuity of care, some of the staff worked in multiple places in the city and were able to get other residences involved. After 2 days, these cans were full. And then to bridge it into the community, they actually some of the individuals went out with the staff and delivered the food themselves. What does it say about us when we are able to all come together, use our unique interests and skills to come together to help these animals, right? What does that say about us? And when we're doing this together, how connected are we?
Yeah, what does it feel like to be on a successful team, all working together? I think we've all had these kinds of experiences, and that's what this generates. The other thing about it is, helping animals, again, has nothing to do with having a diagnosis, has nothing to do with being in a hospital, and certainly there's lots of ways to do it when you're out in the community, so it links up to what you ultimately most care about. Another slide that's blank. Okay. Well, okay. So this looks like a dictionary entry, and I apologize for that. So maybe I'll describe to you exactly why I have this here. We've done a couple of large implementation projects, and this is one of them. So this is an instance in which we were contracted with a state that had a problem with warehousing people in their state hospital. And what they needed us to do is help them build capacity in their state hospital, as well as on their assertive community treatment teams or ACT teams, as well as further down in the level of care. So we were brought in, and we basically trained people in all those locations, and we trained the people who were there. So these were the typical people who were there working with the individuals. We selected to receive this treatment. They selected the people that were the hardest ones on their caseloads, the ones that couldn't get out of the hospital, the ones that were going back into the hospital, the ones that really just were not having much of a life. So typical providers, very challenging individuals. In a 6-month period of time, what we were able to show, and the numbers I have here are for about 400 people who have a diagnosis of serious mental illness, is that for those individuals, a full 2/3 of them were able to make significant improvement in at least one of their recovery dimensions. So this shows typical providers, very difficult individuals, can make significant progress within 6 months. I think that's pretty huge. And many of these people hadn't really been able to make very much progress in sometimes 40 or more years, so a long period of disability. Others of them shorter. The other thing, though, is I want to say recovery is nice, fine principles, but you can actually measure it. You can show people that they're actually getting it. It's more than a feeling, if you mind me saying that. It's really actually the way they're living their life. So that's what I'm just trying to show you here. Everything we've described here, is very trainable, and people who don't have a lot of experience in the field can really do it. It's very, very practical, and it makes amazing difference. Similarly, in Philadelphia, we've done something similar. The state hospital was typically discharging 2 people a year. We were able to get 53 of them out in a year's time, and really doing some amazing stuff. That's what I was telling you about, going from really sort of sitting by yourself and to going to church, reconnecting with your family, and dating. That's the kind of level we've seen. So there were a couple of the slides that are missing, but we find that that's okay. A little randomness in a presentation never hurt. I did get a chance to tell you we have a clinical trial that we ran to show that the treatment worked, and I wouldn't be standing here if it didn't work. But anyway, so we have that. These are some of the states that we've worked in. We actually have something that is going to be starting up in New Jersey next year with the behavioral health homes.
Next year meaning like next month.
Like 2018. But I think we want to stop there, and we hope there'll be some questions. And there's actually a mic here, so that hopefully everyone will be able to hear the questions, so that everyone will sort of keep their blood pressure at a nice, good, even keel blood. So again, I want to thank you all. We always feel honored to appear at NAMI, and we really appreciate you joining with us and talking about this.